We'll be going live soon, Kathleen. Hi there, everybody. Welcome to our open book. Very good to be with you tonight. We have a very special guest who has written a terrific novel. Let's say hello, John Mahoney. Hello, Rhonda Scott, Carla Atkinson, Dorothy Joy. They're piling in. Share your story, Mark Lamazee, Marlo Faulkner. Man Overboard. So look, we have
Yep.
matching copies.
Public.
Yes. Verbonages. So thanks very much, Catherine Capel. Uh, it's just a terrific novel. I was so glad to be able to have Kathleen Rooney, the author, on our show on Saturday. It concerns. I mean, when the novel opens, Patrick Kilpatrick. He's a former college swimmer. He hates the sea. He doesn't like family reunions, and for some reason, he finds himself inexplicably, although we'll get to that, in on a cruise one night near midnight, adrift alone and swimming for his life. Not certain how he got there. Man Overboard! Exclamation point is the novel, and Kathleen Rooney, the best-selling author of Lillian Boxfish Takes a Walk and teaches creative writing at DePaul University in Chicago, joins us now from God's own time zone. Thanks very much for being with us, Kathleen.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I so enjoyed the book. I have to begin again by asking you, how does somebody wind up in the sea swimming for their life and not know how they got there?
Yeah, cruises are famous for having, all-inclusive drinks packages, and Kick, my protagonist, has availed himself of many of those drinks. And so, I thought that was kind of a good way to start the book. So it's a bit of a mystery for the reader in addition to the protagonist. And also, it's an exceptional story, but I wanted it to be kind of realistic. And going into the water drunk would probably be better than going in sober. So he, I think, partly survives because he goes in a little three sheets to the wind.
Yeah. Um, why is he on a family cruise? He's not particularly fond of family cruises or of his family for that matter.
Yeah, terrified of the open water. Even though he is a swimmer, he really likes having four walls and a bottom. But his stepmom, Pam, who's kind of a force of nature, is a huge cruise aficionado. And so ever since she joined the family, she's been booking these cruises for his father and his sister Kelly. And so for Thanksgiving, there's sort of this idea that if they all go on a cruise, there'll be something for everyone and nobody will be responsible for activities that people don't want to do anyway. So Kick, tries to be a good sport and goes along.
Um, tell us where Patrick Kilpatrick is in life. I think he's 33, as I recall, right?
Yeah, he's 33 and he, was raised Catholic, so he thinks of it as his Jesus birthday, and he kind of is in some senses doing really really well. He has a job, he has a condo, he has a car. Um and he has something to show for himself, but in other ways he's kind of emotionally immature. He has unresolved things in his past. He has this on again, off again girlfriend, Justine. And he also has a serious depression, and he's got a
Yeah.
yearning in his to feel better, and he just doesn't really know how to achieve that.
Without giving too much away, the longer you go on in the novel, the more you, I think, appreciate the extent of that depression, and it becomes in many ways the overwhelming theme. Um, what put this novel in your mind and heart?
I grew up landlocked, like Kick, but I think the book is not autobiographical, but I think all novelists do put personal details in, and so one of the things that I gave to Kick is that he grew up reading the Reader's Digests at his grandparents' house, and they have that segment that perhaps other people will fondly remember too, called Drama in Real Life. And that's where normal people, just everyday people, find themselves in these really intense survival situations. And getting mauled by a bear and having to come back to civilization, or, scuba diving and being left behind. And so Kit grew up sort of reading those things because I grew up reading those things. And I think that's where the seed got planted of me being into survival stories. And then when I was in high school, I read David Foster Wallace's A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again, which, his seminal essay on why cruise ships to him were not a fun thing. And so I think, it was that was in there. And then I started kind of keeping track of a lot of people fall off cruise ships or jump off cruise ships or have mishaps on cruise ships. And most of them sadly don't make it, but there are always a handful of people who do. And so I don't know, I think that all came together and I thought this would be a perfect challenge to write a book where my guy spends 1 hour for every chapter, like 1 hour in the water.
How do I put this nicely? He's his own worst enemy in a way, isn't he?
He is. I think one of the things I like about fiction is that you get to know another person, even though they're made up, better than you get to know a lot of people in your own life. And I'm
Right.
not one of these people who automatically says, like, how well do we ever really know anyone? I think it is really possible to know people well, but not in necessarily the 360-degree, like, full view that a work of fiction can give you. And so I think that was what I was interested in is this tension and kick between his surface and his depth because he's like a very hot, conventionally attractive heterosexual man who I think people see him and make a lot of assumptions about his life and how he acts, but really, like I don't. It's hard when talking about this book not to do a lot of water puns, but still waters run deep, and his unruffled surface belies these depths that he, like a lot of people, but especially I think men in a certain milieu, feel like they can't really talk about. And so I think, yeah, he reads books, he thinks deeply, he's drawn to philosophizing, but he doesn't have a lot of places to put his thoughts and his feelings.
Mm. He falls into as he struggles for his life. He enters into conversations with sea creatures who, as I believe I told you on Saturday, to my way of thinking, they get all the best lines.
Yes.
Is it the sea turtle who blames Kick for oil spills and global warming? If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Yeah. She brings up the Deepwater Horizon spill. She's really
Right.
upset.
Yeah. Exactly. And those sections are laugh out loud funny, but then it pierces your heart. Tell us about, as a novelist, the balancing act that you have to do for that.
Yeah, I think the book is really interested in this sense of life being absurd, and I think absurd can sometimes mean ridiculous or meaningless, and that's not what I mean, but absurd can kind of mean incongruous. And I think being alive at all is sort of incongruous. I mean, as far as we know, like I hope there's life on other planets, but as far as we know, we and all the sentient creatures, which includes the sea turtles and the seahorses and other people kick encounters, are kind of exceptional in the universe. And so I think to me, comedy feels like not a way to make light of the darkness, but to show why life is so sad and so glorious. Like the funny parts enhance the sad parts. I think I said, on Saturday, it's like the chocolate and the peanut butter. I think they're not like contradicting. They go together and make everything more delicious.
I made a note of that. Yeah, chocolate and peanut butter. We might try it tonight and say that it's all for literature.
Right.
Um, can I ask you about your career as a creative writing teacher?
Yes.
How do you teach creative writing? Do you just stand up there and say, "Okay, be creative, damn it"?
I mean, to an extent, but it's a little more subtle. I'm a big believer in um like craft and structure as a way to kind of give everyone a script. Like I teach a lot of the 101 and 201 classes, so the intro classes, and I do like to think of myself as the fun class. But I know it's intimidating for some people, and some people have, never written a poem before, maybe never even seen a play. And so I try to do things like say, not just like write a poem, be creative, but write a sonnet, 14 lines, rhyme scheme, volta, some kind of rhetorical thing. And I teach a whole class called Craft of Poetry, where I just give them very diabolical prompts. Like we start with 20 little poetry prompts where they have to do 20 moves in one poem. And I think that helps. And then I also, just say that art is the transmission of the human spirit, and they all have a human spirit. And so, it's just kind of being quiet and sitting and thinking and listening to like what's in there that wants to come out.
Yeah. We're getting comments from people, and one of our regulars, S.R. O'Brien, prompted me on something. I just, a few weeks ago, and I did a salute for her in my newsletter. I think I've talked to her on the air before. My old high school English teacher at Senn High School in Chicago, Jean Reckitt, left us, unfortunately. And I have her to thank for a lot.
Ah,
But I specifically remember she was going over something I'd written, and she said, "Okay, Scott, that'll do. That's accurate. That's fine. That's good. Now let's go for interesting."
yeah.
I never forgot that. I mean,
Yeah,
my
that's
God, what great advice, you know? And I wonder about that. What do your students write about?
they write about everything that's on their mind. They write about their, relationships with their significant others, their relationships with their parents. They write about technology. They write about climate change and their grief at, what's happening to the planet and how powerless they feel to stop it. They write about politics. I mean, every single thing you can think of, they write about. And I think I'm I don't know, I love teaching. I love getting to go in. I teach a 3-3-3 load, 3 in the fall, 3 in the winter, 3 in the spring, and in the best classes, it's like I just get to walk into a room and hang out with like 18 of my really well-read and, to your point, interesting, friends.
Oh, that's wonderful. Let us return to your wonderful novel, Man Overboard, if we can. As I mentioned, it begins to kind of wring your heart as you go on, and you really become wondering not just if Kilpatrick is going to survive, but if he really wants to. Is this territory you have shared with friends? Have you known people like this?
Yes, yeah, definitely, and I think a lot, without naming specific people, about the way kind of mental health gets treated in our society. And I think, the book is hopefully just like a really heartfelt, character driven read, but some of the ideas that I was bringing to it are things that I've read to try to understand friends going through situations like this of severe depression and trying to find the will to go on. And two thinkers that I've found really illuminating are Mark Fisher, who some of your viewers may know. He was an amazing writer and philosopher, wrote a lot about music, but he wrote a lot about this tension between our society and our individuality, and sort of how in a capitalist society like ours, mental health gets reduced to an individual problem. Like, you just have to fix yourself so you can be a cog in the machine and keep going and being productive, but really it's relational and reactive to our circumstances. And if you feel like you're living in a broken world, it might not just be you that's broken. So he really advocated for like a balance of individual treatment, but also acknowledging. And I think Kick is like this, where there's things personal to him that he needs to fix, but it's not just a matter of him, um, accomplishing himself. And the other thinker was James Hillman, the psychologist, the Jungian psychologist, and he sort of has this um, archipelago theory of mental health, how we are islands, but not just islands. Like, it's kind of up to us, but it's also up to, we're in relation to each other. So this is all very heady. I don't think any reader of the novel would know that this is what I was thinking about, but that's just some of the stuff that I've found helpful as I've tried to understand these issues as they affect people.
Yeah, and I do want to say, as we say on Saturday, if anybody who is with us tonight is troubled by those thoughts, there is help. Call a cop, call a priest, call a nun, call a rabbi, call
Call a
988,
friend.
or call a friend.
Yeah.
Uh,
Call a teacher.
Call a teacher,
Call a
yes.
teacher. Call a teacher. Do you have more than one novel going in your mind at any given time?
Yes, I mean, I have more than one book. I write all genres, fiction, nonfiction, and poetry. So I'm always working at least back burner on more than one project. So I'm like, without revealing too much, I'm one third of the way into what I think will be my next novel. But I'm also working on mentioning priests and nuns. This book about saints. It's like I guess like essay poems where I took one saint whose feast day it was every day in the month of April, and then just like wrote about that. And it was so they're funny. I think it could sound overly religious, but I think they're funny, they're sad. What I love about the lives of the saints is what I love about like reading fiction is that they sort of exist in this realm of like the saints are religious, but they're also kind of like Arabian Nights or like fairy tales, and like the lore is obviously an effort to kind of just understand
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. You know, Darlene, I knew two saints.
I
have known
know.
two saints.
You did?
Tell-
Well, and of course, I would include my wife.
I was
That's
just going to say 3.
that's a third. That's a third. No, Archbishop Oscar Romero in El Salvador, who was martyred,
Yeah.
and then Mother Teresa, whom I
Wow.
both.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, with our daughters, at one point, I would sometimes get called in to give when they have to parents luncheon or something like
Right.
that. I would usually make that about saints I have known because I figured who can compete with that? That's the. I enjoyed this novel a lot. I thank you very much. And we want to thank you for being with us tonight, Kathleen Rooney, the wonderful novel. Let me get you there. Um,
Here's mine.
all right,
It's a great cover.
It is a great cover, and as I said, the sea life get really all the best lines, which why I admire. A question that I meant to. So, does Kick listen to them because they are strangers in his life? In a
Yeah.
way, he would not. Yes. Okay.
Yes, I think so. I think when the first creature he gets to talk to, without spoiling too many of the jokes, but he meets a whale shark, and the whale shark kind of riffs on this idea of, wow, men really will do anything to avoid going to therapy. And, she's kidding, but she has a point. And I do think in his ordeal, Kick needs to hear from people who are outside the situation and are going to give him some tough love and some hard advice. And
Yeah.
if will say I'm leaning into the sea creature theme. I'm doing my first signing in Chicago tomorrow, and I have a seahorse pen. So I'm really
Oh.
how do you like the I love animals.
Oh, so do we. I have a book out now about animals.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Where will you be in Chicago? Let everyone know.
She's in Chicago.
but
She's in.
Yeah.
Where's
your
signing
book
tomorrow?
appearance?
Yeah, tomorrow night I'll be at the bookseller in Lincoln Square with my friend Amran Gawani, who wrote this novel Leverage that I highly recommend. It's like a comic financial thriller. And then on Wednesday night I'll be up in Evanston at Ashley Hasty's book salon. And then on Thursday night I'll be up in Winnetka with Sarah Levine, whose novel The Hitch is fantastic. It's similar. If you like Man Overboard, if you like funny, sad, it's hitting those boxes.
The bookstall in Wilmette, Winnetka?
In Winnetka, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In Winnetka.
Yeah. So if people are interested, come through.
Oh, all right. Well, I hope people show up wherever you are. So, in any event, Man Overboard! Kathleen Rooney. It's a terrific novel. So, thanks very much for being with us tonight on our open book. Tomorrow night, I think we have a Paris Review reading, but I don't want to get too much. Don't want to indicate too much. So, thanks very much, everyone, for being with us tonight. And I believe there's a World Cup game at 8:00. I don't know how many people were watching Spain, Portugal. We were rooting for Spain for a number of different reasons. And boy, what a game. So, but of course, as we say in our family, allez les bleus. So I'll just leave it there. So thanks very much, everyone, for being with us in our open book tonight. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much.
Bye.